Today we have a very interesting topic. Whenever we talk to our clients or at certain seminars about investing, we stress on the point that management, understanding the quality of the management is the most important thing. Because when we buy a stock, we'll be a minority shareholder, and the management can really play havoc with our money. So choosing the right management becomes very important. And how does one choose a right management? We thought the best way would be to show a presentation on what different ways we look at when we choose a management. We look at what the management, how it talks to the press, how it talks to its people, what philosophy it follows, what the press talks about it, what the competitors talk about it. So there are various factors. And we bought one stock, Anheuser Busch, that is Budweiser beer, manufacturers of Budweiser beer. And people are asking us, this company is in the US. What skills or competencies do you have that you can buy a stock of that company? Now for us the answer was, we have bought this stock, it's in our fund. You just be rest assured that things will be fine. And what went behind that, choosing of the stock, about the management, will be presented by Rajiv. Another thing Rajiv would talk about is this company, the BG Capital, how they partner with Warren Buffett to take over Hales. Rajiv and Neil, they had gone to the Berkshire meeting, and they had discussed these things with Warren Buffett in an open public forum. And Rajiv was very excited about the way they have gone. And it's very important for us to understand how that process works. Over to you, Rajiv.
A 50,000 strong forum was the auditorium, it was the basketball stadium that was there. This book was discussed, Dream Big, 3G Capital. These are the three gentlemen out there. One of them is 75 years, other one is 66, and the third one is 64. Lehman, Sikupira, Dennis. Before these guys acquired Heinz in partnership with Berkshire Hathaway, I had not heard about this company or these people. It's only after this deal that they came into limelight for people living so far away from Southern America. So the group has its origin in Brazil. So this is the story. The eldest person of them got a Harvard education, went to work with Credit Suisse. Then he worked with a domestic brokerage in Brazil, started his own brokerage, expanded into investment banking. Very strange for an investment banker, bought a retailing company. In India, probably we have parallels in someone like Radhakrishnan Damani starting a retailing company. But later on bought a beer company, one of the two leading beer companies in Southern America, in this country. Then acquired their competitor Antarctica Beer. This Brazilian brewery merged with a European company, Interbrew. That company in turn acquired or merged with Anheuser Busch, manufacturers of Budweiser. Somewhere down the road, they bought Burger King. Parag mentioned they acquired Heinz in partnership with Buffett. And they are again in the news. Burger King is in talks to merge with or acquire or whatever you call it, Tim Hortons. This is a Canadian coffee chain. So it's essentially a story about how within one generation, it's not that this person inherited all these businesses or was born that rich. It's a story about how a group of individuals became not only billionaires but ended up owning Burger King, Heinz and Anheuser Busch. So three very key American brands, three key American businesses. And what are the learnings? So apart from lessons in investing for people in this room who are business persons, it's also a business management class in a way, where one of the CEOs will be talking to you. So essentially these are lessons from the book Dream Big. But if I just read out what those lessons were, it would be a very boring talk. It would sound very academic, and especially when these people are not familiar to us. Some of you may have not heard of this company or may not heard of the people involved. So what we have is, we have the CEO of Budweiser talking to us. We have numerous video clips where he talks about these same principles. So one of the first lessons that is there is dreaming big, and it's very clear, unless these guys were ambitious, unless these guys had big goals, they would never have reached where they are. So they say that there are three pillars of their management principles or their practices. One of them is dream big. So we listen to Carlos Britto. Carlos Britto is not among the founders. He's a professional CEO who has been appointed. We'll listen to what he has to say.
And now I'm going to explore those three dimensions. I'll start with the first one, which is all about the dream, what we call the dream. So if you're saying you need to achieve great results, you don't want to achieve just average results, you want to achieve great results, we call it, and you need to inspire people, we call it, you need to give people a dream, a sense of purpose, something that will inspire people, will get them to put their energy, will get them to really believe they can get there, row in the same direction, align the company. It's easy to explain to any of us what a dream is. A dream is something that's stretched but credible, something that will require a lot of work, something that motivates everybody, and something that everybody can see how I can, with my bit of the business, help the company get there. So it's something that needs to talk to everybody. So it's a little bit of an art form. It's an educated art form on how to set a dream that will talk to everybody, get everybody excited to go in the same direction. Because if you can get there and establish that dream, then you up the bar. Then you set the reference. Anything below that is not acceptable. So if you're trying to be best in class, good is not good enough, right? And dreaming big takes the same amount of energy as dreaming small. So why dream small? It takes the same amount of energy. So dream big, inspire your people. And that will make amazing things happen because people will start believing. It's just like the high jump. I mean, if you always put the bar here, people will just jump enough to clear the hurdle. If you start raising the bar and people believe that they can do it and they do it, they start getting that confidence and they do it. So that's the thing about the big dream. Gets people to be confident that they can deliver. The other thing is that you have to dream big, but you have to stay humble. That's very important. Because when you think about it, what's the definition of a dream? Dream is something where you say, I'm here, I want to get here. That's the dream. We call this a gap. And for you to determine a gap, you have to find somebody out there who serves as a benchmark. So you say, the benchmark's here, we are here, our dream is to close this gap. And then once this gap is closed, you open the next gap. That's the only function of a leader and management in general. Open gaps, close gaps. But for you to open gaps, you have to be humble enough to believe that there's always somebody out there, companies out there, that do it better than you do. Not in everything. There's no such a company, a perfect company. But in every dimension, supply chain, logistics, finance, legal, people, whatever you want to call it, there are 3, 4, 5 companies out there that do it better than you do. So think about trucks. I mean, the loading of a truck, okay, the routing systems, you know, the warehouse management, or think about anything else you want to think. Everything is measurable, and if you can measure, you can compare to somebody else and establish the gap. So this is the thing about being humble. You have to believe that no matter how good you think you are, there's always somebody out there who is in specific dimensions and in all dimensions do it better than you. Not one somebody, many somebodies. All you have to do is go look, establish the benchmark, open the gap, and then the whole thing, and the targets and the whole system is about closing those gaps. And that covers the first part in a very summarized fashion of getting to results in a sustainable way. Is to open gaps, have dreams, get people excited, and make them believe that as a group they can do much more than they believe they could. The high jump. You keep putting that bar higher, and people start believing, because they do it, that they can do more things than they thought they could. All right? Are you guys with me? Are you guys with me? Yes. All right. Okay. So now let's go to and the thing about the dream is this, because some companies, you know, you have that thing called the feel-good department. I don't know if you've heard about this. One of the companies we acquired many years ago, they had a department called the feel-good department. It was an invisible department. It was in no org chart, but it was everywhere. And every time they had a problem and a KPI and a key performance indicator was not being achieved, they would send that piece of news, bad piece of news, to the feel-good department. They would repackage that, send it back as a piece of good news. And everybody would be happy. Isn't that amazing? So the first thing we got there, we said, guys, we need to close this department. And when things are going well, they're going well, we'll celebrate, do more of it. When things are not going well, we'll call it a gap, a problem, something we need to close. And we always said, it's great to look up, trying to find that benchmark. Because when you look up, you get inspired, you get challenged, if you're talented. When you look down, you get comfortable, and you get lazy, right? It's the same thing. I mean, if you come to the GSB, you're looking up, because the people here will raise the bar for you. You'll say, oh my God, this is very competitive. If you go to some other schools, you feel great. You're going to be the top 1%. But is that going to be good for you? No, because it will get you lazy and comfortable. So you have to get your group to look up, find those benchmarks, open those gaps, dream big, and go for it. That's the first thing, a leader and high performance, how they connect.
So this is the vague mission statements or making big noises about we'll achieve this and we'll achieve that. It's actually about having stretch goals and taking them seriously and working towards it. And as he mentioned, the feel-good department. There's no feel-good department. If people achieve it, they'll be happy, they will be rewarded. But if those goals are not achieved, then these guys would be ruthless. So this is the first aspect of their managerial principles. Have a big dream. So many years before Budweiser was acquired by these guys, they kept joking about it internally. And in the minds of the founder, it was never a joke. He always was serious about it. But people would laugh. How can a small Brazilian beer manufacturer think about acquiring Budweiser? It seemed completely crazy. But in their minds, it was not crazy. The second aspect of their management is people. And I'll talk about this after listening to him. I think he puts it in words better than I can do. It's quite interesting. Just listen to it.
The second thing is The second thing is the whole thing about people. When you think about it, there's no company. What you have is a group of people that equals a company. It's not the opposite. A company equals people. No, people equals company. So for you to have a great company, and a great leader wants that, you have to first have great people. The amazing thing about people is that people is the only sustainable competitive advantage any business can have over competition. It can be a consulting, a banking. In consulting and banking, it's easier to imagine because all you have is people and telephones and computers and frameworks and knowledge. At least that's what they say. In companies more like ours and others, where you have brands, I mean, people tend to get distracted that what counts is really the brands, the factories, the warehouses, the trucks, the access to markets, and forget the people component. But in our view, again, just like banking consultant, the most important things, the only sustainable competitive advantage that is hard to copy is your people machine. The way you really grow people, attract, retain, grow, develop, deploy. That's hard to copy. And people don't see it. It's one of those soft things. If you launch a new product, that can be copied the next month, the next day, the next 6 months. If you have a new marketing campaign, that can be copied or even done better. But if you have a people machine that get people to develop and stay within your company and grow, and because they are the company will grow as well, that's soft. It's hard to see, and when they see it, you're already 5, 10 years ahead of them. So people is very important. For you to dream big, you need great people. For you to form a great company, you need great people. And for you, and the thing is that great people attract more of the same. That's the amazing thing. They like to work together. They challenge each other. They learn from each other. They get inspired by each other. The problem is that mediocre people also love to work together. They give each other easy targets, right? They think everybody's great. They celebrate even when they have no reasons to celebrate. They use the feel-good department, right? And that builds an average company, not a great company.
So this is interesting. He talks about people being the only competitive advantage that someone can have. And it seems very strange. If you have listened to the writings of Buffett, etc., he says that a business should be so good that any fool should be able to run it, and how brands can have a huge moat or a competitive advantage, or how some technology can be a competitive advantage, or how the network effect can be a competitive advantage. But this guy has a diametrically opposite view. He says that people can be the only competitive advantage or the main competitive advantage that a business has. And it's a very different way of thinking. Listen to what he says about how to go about retaining these people. And this is the key. Just hiring great people is not enough. He says it's very easy to hire great people. You somehow convince them and they come and start working with you. But if the conditions are not right, very soon they'll pack up their bags and go away. So, how to retain great people is the key. Listen to this. Also, an interesting point is, he says that if you have a combination of great people, they'll challenge each other, they'll have fun achieving new things. And at the same time, if you have mediocre people, they'll also comfort each other and create an average company. So listen to this, and we'll discuss this in depth once this is through.
Great companies are formed by great people. But the thing about great people is not attracting great people. It's retaining great people. Because a lot of companies that do a good job at attracting great people, but they lose them. They train them to the marketplace. We're not a school. We're not going to be training people for our competitors to use them. We want people to come and stay. But for them to come and stay, we don't lose good people. And when we do, it's a crisis. We learned a couple things, 4 or 5 things that I'll share with you that talented people like you love in a company. Some companies offer that. Some others don't. First thing, meritocracy. Easy to say, hard to do. Meritocracy is that concept that people grow according to their talents, what they can deliver, the potential they have, the teams they form, the people they attract, the cultural ambassador, the culture they spread. They grow because of that. Not because of their passport, last names, how long they've been in the company, no. Because of the first group of things. That's meritocracy. Very hard. In the Q&A we can explore more of that. But that's meritocracy. And meritocracy is hard to do because it entails the fact of fairness. Our definition of fairness is that you have to treat different people in different ways. That's being fair. If you treat everybody the same, that's unfair. And meritocracy is being fair. So if somebody is dedicating more time, producing more results, have more potential, is willing to chew a bigger bone, is willing to have more accountability, is willing to go to places, be transferred around the globe, that person deserves more opportunity, more exposure, will have more learning, and will also build their wealth according to the value that's being created. That's also a very important component. It's not the most important one by any stretch, but it's one of the components. Okay, so the idea of fairness is that you treat different people different ways. And a lot of companies are afraid of saying that because that sounds incorrect. But at the end, what's incorrect is treating everybody the same. The second thing they like is this whole idea about informality. Informality is not the way you dress. It's not the way you set up your operations in terms of offices and stuff. For example, in our place, I have no office. I have a big table with my direct reports around me, and so does everybody. In all places in the world where we operate. Why? Because information flows, people can speak up. You don't need to be booking meetings all the time. Meetings happen as you meet people in the office. There's no assistant blocking your agenda. You're available. That's informality. But that's only part of it. The true informality is a company that's able to deal with healthy conflicts. And a lot of people don't like that. A lot of bosses don't like to be contradicted or challenged. What I say is that as long as it's respectful and constructive, you can say whatever you want if you're trying to get the business to a better place. And having no hidden agendas help that. That's why I never go home with a work-related problem. I go home with a market-related problem. So if in that market my brands are not performing well, competition's kicking my you-know-what, that's something that's 24/7 with me. But if I go to a meeting and somebody says something that sounds strange to me, I won't go home with that. After the meeting, I'll call Jane. Jane, can we talk for 5 minutes, go to a different room? You said that, I quite didn't understand. Did you mean A or B? Oh, I meant A. Oh, very good, because I thought it was B. Okay, settled. And then your mind is free up again to focus on what matters, what creates value, and not on internal politics and things like that. An open office also enables that. People don't have doors to close and talk small talk. It's all open. So that's informality, the whole thing about healthy conflicts. The other thing that talented people like you like in a company is candor, honesty. They want to know where they stand. Example, performance evaluation. We do it twice a year, formally, 90 minutes, one-on-one, both ways. Self-evaluation, my evaluation of the individual, his or her evaluation of me. 90 minutes. It takes 90 minutes to get to what counts. Okay? Very easy to say, very hard to do. Because then it's a Friday, and you say, oh my God, if I have to tell Tom the things that are not working, it's going to ruin his weekend. And then the next week you travel, and then when you're back, he's not here, and then a year's passed, 10 years passed, his life is only one, and it's short anyway. All of our lives are short for everything we want to do, and you're just playing God because you know something and you don't want to share. It's his life. It's wrong. You have to tell what's good, what's bad, and how you can help him recover and get back on track. Candor. Talented people like to know where they stand, their future with the company, what the next steps could be, and what they can do better. They don't like you to manage that as, playing God. I'm I'll do it my way. I don't need to share that. No, share with me. It's my life. I want to know it. Another thing that they like is this idea of partnership. In our company, we have partners. Partners are people up from a certain level up, we have partners. They share in the wealth that's created. As a company, we're not shy of sharing the wealth that's created. Talented people like that. They like to know that if they work hard and they do the things and they get the results, that part of those things they'll also be able to share. It's not the most important thing, but it's part of the package. So that's very key. And in some companies, people are very shy. They don't like to do that. I think this is important for talented people because they feel that there's a wealth creation going on along with the company creating value. The other thing they like is growth. I was in Mexico yesterday, the last 2 days. We just acquired an operation in Mexico, the Grupo Modelo, the Corona brands, Modelo Especial, those brands. Our head of the Mexican operation, which is a zone, as we call it, we have 7 zones around the world, is the third important zone, is a guy who's 35 years old, as the head of our Mexican operation. It's his responsibility to integrate the business, make the tough decisions, right-size the structure, deliver the synergies, continue to grow the top line, get that business to be one of our business, and implement the culture. 35. So we're not afraid of giving people early on in their careers, as much as they have a lot of the things I described before, that they leapfrog others and they get ahead because they're better. That's the thing about fairness. He's better than others, so why wait?
So some very interesting observations. We'll take some time over here. Any feedback from the audience? What did you find interesting in this piece? If you were listening carefully.
I think in India the culture is the other way now. You say, I will put employ people need base. Whereas he's trying to say, there are more people and better people who can grow the company. We follow that.
True. Okay. Meritocracy. I think that
is a message.
That was a very important thing. This group has something in common with the earlier days of Infosys. Anybody can guess what is that?
Share.
Share options would be one, maybe.
Infosys chairman once said, the best talent or the best asset of my company cannot be shown on the balance sheet, and he was emphasizing that my people are my best assets.
Okay.
And he talked about treating different people differently.
Okay.
So otherwise, just there is one benchmark and everyone is treated on that benchmark. But it's saying for different people, we should have different benchmarks because they have different talent, different capabilities. So emphasizing on treating different people differently.
Sure. Another thing which is common is that the founders had a pact when they started off that none of us will employ any relative in our company. And Infosys broke that when Narayan Murthy came back with his son. But this guy, so when he mentioned your passport does not matter. So whether you are British, American, Brazilian, it does not matter. Your last name does not matter. Who you are related to or what influence you have. Your age and number of years in the company does not matter. What matters is how committed you are, whether you can bring results, whether you are willing to go that extra mile, travel to different places, different countries to set up businesses over there, and so on and so forth. He says meritocracy is easy to say, but very difficult to implement. So that is one key thing that they live by. The other factor that they live by is this concept of partnership. They don't look at their employees as employees beyond a certain level. So what they were trying to do was very unique for Brazil. In India at least, we have quite a few MNCs or PSUs and all of that where growth happens on seniority or on some other basis. In Brazil, most of the businesses were family owned. So no matter how capable an outsider was, that person could never grow. And salaries were capped at a particular level. People would never grow beyond that. And these people brought the investment banking culture into traditional businesses. Things like retailing and beer companies and all of that. Small fixed salaries and outsized bonuses depending on performance. Again, it's not a feel-good department. No bonus will be paid if you don't achieve what you are supposed to achieve and things like that. Their brokerage firm was structured on the structure of the Goldman Sachs partnership of early days. And that structure, they grafted onto all of these different businesses. If you notice, he said that the head of the Mexico operation was 35 years of age. Now, this person would be junior to many of those other people in their Mexico operations. But that did not stand in the way of this guy being promoted and heading that company. See, what would have happened is if that guy was forced to be subordinate to some of the less capable people, they would have lost him to competition. Again, he says, I am not a training school. I never want to train people and send my best employees to competition. So that is another key principle that they live by. There are similarities between what these guys are doing and what a lot of other emerging market companies are doing. So for example, Tata's acquired Chorus and Jaguar Land Rover, or Hindalco acquired Novelis, and so many other companies keep acquiring overseas assets. But the similarity ends there. Here, almost all of their overseas acquisitions have been successful. And what is the differentiating factor? What is the key? I think this is the key.
Than the one company, one culture idea, especially as you're crossing borders with companies that are hundreds of years old. I mean,
Very good question.
they are very proud of their legacy and their history and the culture that built it. And yet you're saying, that was wonderful, now you belong to us, assimilate to the Borg or what? So I'm wondering about turnover, I'm wondering about how you retain that.
Very good question. Very good question. And that's key, guys, because that's where a lot of people get distracted. There are two things. You have the national culture of countries, of regions, and you have the company culture. Two different things. We don't want to change the national cultures. We can't do it. And the beauty of the world is that people are different. So you go to China, they dress differently, their pastimes different, their food's different, they have landmarks that are different. That's all beautiful. Then you go to India, you go to Brazil, you go to Belgium, you go to Germany, you go to Canada, you go to the US, even in the same country, different regions. That's all beautiful. And that's why the world's so interesting. And one thing we said from the very beginning is that if you join our company, that's, we call it the 10 principles. 1 on dream, 2 on people, 7 on culture. 10. And in good and bad times, they don't change. Those are the principles. So if you like them, great. We're not going to change them. And that causes turnover? Yes, but fine. Because it takes 20 years, 30 years, a lifetime to get the fabric to be one, a strong one. And you can destroy that by starting being flexible. And starting believing in things. You go to Korea and people say, oh no, Britto, here is different. This whole idea of targets and compensation. For example, I'll tell you, when we came to the US, because we believe in ownership, our long-term incentive, okay, it's 5-year vest. So for you to get the shares, it's a 5-year vesting period. The company we acquired in the US was 3 years, given that the 1/3 would vest in the first year, the second third in the second, the third in the third. We said, forget it. That's short term, that's not long term, call it something else. If you're going to be here for 30 years, what's 5 years? Ours is 5, sometimes 10 years, cliff. So if you live 4 years, 11 months, 0. It's 5 years. And a lot of people left because of that. For example, I travel commercial. And yes, because I travel to Russia, China, India, and all that, it, in a way, one could picture as a waste of time. But that's important for the culture. Because then when I ask people, guys, we're in a tough year. We need you guys to buckle up and to really stretch things and really give your best because it's a tough year and find non-working money so we can invest behind the working money, I can say it because I travel commercial. I stay in the same hotels everybody stays. They stay in the same hotels I do. I eat the same thing they eat. Everything's the same. I make more money than they do. We're not socialists. Okay? No. But on the silly things, we hate anything that's a status symbol. We think that destroys the whole idea of a group, an engaged group. So I don't have a company car, I don't have a driver, I don't have an office, I don't have a jet. I'm just like all my colleagues. And yes, it takes a toll, but it's worth for the culture, which is much bigger. And the culture is the one that gives us the performance, which I'm here for. Then it's a full circle. But again, this idea of national culture, so what? Japan is different. But if you, Japanese colleague, want to join a company, you have to buy into these concepts. And by the way, what we say is that you have to have a big dream, surround yourself with the best people you can find, and create an environment where they stay. Look at Mike Phelps. He had the same idea. He wanted to have 8 gold medals. Why 8? All of us would be happy with 1. He wanted 8. Dream. He surrounded himself with the best people he could find. Coaches, exercise people, everything. And he owned the process. He was not being forced to do it. He was doing this during his birthday, Christmas Day, New Year's, because he wanted it. So the principles apply to any good student here at the GSP, to any good athlete, and we believe to the company too. So we're not asking anything that's out of the ordinary. It's all common sense. But because it's common sense, people don't talk about it. They take it for granted. And that's why it doesn't work. It gets diluted. So one company, one culture. Never buy into the situation, oh no, here it doesn't work. No, we've tried before. Trust me, it doesn't work. Don't buy it. Because then if culture has to do a performance and you dilute it, your performance will suffer. And as a leader, again, you're there to generate results with the people, doing it the right way. Another question.
So when he talks about one company, one culture, I think a lot of acquisitions go for a toss because the acquirer is not able to bring out the efficiencies that they envisaged or to remove the inefficiencies or impose the working standards. He was quite blunt. He says, if it causes employee turnover, so be it. This is the way it works. So if you are a Japanese, you are free to dress the way Japanese do. I won't impose a Brazilian way of dressing on you. Or you can eat the food that you like. But there's no compromise on the performance-linked pay and things like that. That is severe. Typically, people get into trouble with, oh, we acquired a French company, now French people just work 35 hours in a week and they take 2-hour lunch breaks and whatever. That doesn't work. If you are going to acquire and not take these tough decisions, the acquisition will never work. You will end up making a loss. The other factor that you would have noticed, he says he doesn't have a company car, he doesn't have a driver, he doesn't have a private jet, nothing. Now, the company pays very well. There are huge bonuses. People can buy a Rolls Royce with their own money if they so choose. But the company will, per se, will be very cost conscious. This is one of their key principles. And I think Mr. Lalit Chokani here will identify with this. That cost consciousness is a key for success of any of these acquisitions and things like that. Another thing that these people are quite open about, and in fact some people would be embarrassed, but these people are proud of doing this, is that they evaluate anybody and everybody, find out the best practices and copy it. Copy it to perfection and sometimes end up improving it.
Hi, my name is Rachel. Thank you so much. You talked about
Where are you,
comparing
Rachel?
yourself to companies right here.
Okay, all right.
You talked about looking at companies in other industries that are better than you guys are, whether it be at legal, marketing, supply chain. Could you give us some examples of the companies that you're trying to learn from?
in the old days when we were trying to build our people compensation system, we look a lot because of the partnership structure. We look at companies like Goldman Sachs 20 years ago, when they were still a private partnership, not today a public company. In those days, they had a lot of the things that we learned from. In terms of being frugal, being very cost conscious, because money is so hard to make, that we try to tell our people, guys, let's spend money in a very careful way, because it's very hard to make money in the first place. And if we're here all working for the consumer, let's see what's important for him or her, and everything else is up for grabs. So if A, B, C, D is what they really pay a premium for, buy more of, get more loyalty, we'll get more loyalty from them, let's do more of this. And the non-working money, let's question. So Walmart was a big inspiration. Then Pepsi, the whole thing about leadership, we learned a lot about Pepsi. So just 3 examples of, in the old days when we're putting this stuff together, companies that we looked for hints. By the way, our company is a collection of things we copied from everybody. We didn't create anything, and we're very proud of that. By the way, we copy with pride. The only thing we did a little twist was on the people side, because we thought it was so important in our culture, in some ways so unique, that we did a couple twists. Everything we just copied. And I've been in the company since the very beginning, so I can pretty much in sales, where I spend most of my time, tell you everything, all the best practices we have and the frameworks we use, from which company, which year, in that visit, that we saw that thing, that we copied, that we got the manual, that we adapted to our situation. So we copy everything. But on people, we try to invest much more time than the average company would do, or even these companies that we visited, and especially on the retaining. How can we build a place where these people love and will stay? That's my number 1 priority. Another question.
So he mentioned that they copied some things from Walmart. What they did not mention is that when they acquired that Brazilian retailing company, they wrote to the CEO of each and every large retail chain in the world, saying, we are a retailer out of Brazil, we want to come and meet you and understand how your company works. And that's how they got in touch with Sam Walton. They developed personal friendships with Sam Walton, studied how Walmart works, and implemented a lot of those principles in their company. So the senior managers of this company have annual session with Jim Collins, who's a management trainer and author and all, to figure out what are the things they can implement in their company. They regularly take executive education programs in Harvard and Wharton and Stanford and various places, and they keep traveling and keep seeking out people. So the deal with Warren Buffett happened maybe a couple of years back or a year back, but they have been in touch with Warren Buffett for many years. So they keep seeking out all these key figures and people they figure that they can learn from, and then they try and develop these things. And in the previous talk, again, he mentioned the long-term vision. He says that if you stay with the company for less than 5 years, none of those benefits come to you. So they are not looking at anyone coming and working in their company for a short period of time and building their resume. They are interested in people who are only long-term and people who only have a partnership kind of approach rather than an employee kind of approach. Something which was not mentioned here, but which somehow seems clear from their actions, is that they have succeeded by acquiring companies run by lazy and incompetent, maybe second or third generation promoters who have no clue how the business is run, who are only interested in their luxurious lifestyles. there is this data in the book about their acquisition of Brahma beer. Now in the country there were, I think, only 2 beer manufacturers, and still profitability was about moderate or sometimes not adequate. And very strangely, there was a situation in some of the summer months of beer rationing. There would be queues outside supermarket stores, and supermarkets would not have enough stock to give out. So they would say, okay, one person can buy only maybe 2 bottles or 4 bottles or whatever the quota was. Now this is ridiculous. In a capitalist society where there is so much of demand, there is not too much of competition, product is priced properly, how can you not have adequate supply? So they acquired it, they worked out the inefficiencies, and suddenly it was a very prosperous business. So even the European company that they acquired was not the first generation entrepreneurial thing. It was in the family for generations, and the founding families had spread. So now there was a wide group of various shareholders, no one person controlling the entire block. Obviously no one person would take a lot of interest in the whole thing. And these people acquired it, they were more driven. Earlier it was called a merger of equals. Brazilian press portrayed it as a sellout by the Brazilians. It was thought that Europeans had acquired the Brazilian company. But as it turned out, these people took the entire management control of InBev. Again, same thing played out when Budweiser was acquired, when Anheuser Busch was acquired. Again, the people were not that interested in the business, it was floundering. Although it was an iconic brand and huge recall with people. Heinz again, the business has been passed on from generation to generation, and the current generation is also interested in politics and so on. So essentially, they go out and acquire something where the owners are not that driven, that keen on the business, and then they simply turn it around. So the lesson here is, if you can see parallels in any other business, in an Indian company for example, then you can sort of make out as to what will be the path ahead. Now currently there is a company or there are companies which were owned by, let's say, the Vijay Mallya group earlier. Now he was interested in various things, interested in airlines, interested in sports teams and Formula 1 racing and whatnot. Now somehow or the other the business has moved to some other people. So these things will require very close watch. Maybe there is something that can change under new owners, as things have happened in the case of 3G Capital. So where did they get the money from to acquire all of these businesses? They have been using leverage. So Buffett is a guy who's not too comfortable with leverage. These guys have been using leverage to acquire businesses. In that sense, this activity is similar to the LBOs or the leveraged buyouts that were there in the earlier days. So some of you may have heard about acquisition of the biscuit and tobacco company RJR, Nabisco, and groups like KKR and all that, which borrow a lot of money to acquire listed companies, and then they turn the companies around and sell it off. The difference here is that these guys are not interested in selling off the companies after turning it around. They continue to run it, and then they continue to use that company as a base for the next acquisition. So that's the difference over here. If someone is interested in this subject, they can read a book called Barbarians at the Gate. This is relating to the acquisition of Anheuser Busch. Again, we'll listen to what they talk about leadership. What is the task of a leader?
What are leaders? Performance. So I'm here to talk to you in our experience how those things connect. First, let me try to share with you our definition of leadership, because there are so many. Let me give you a very simple one. First, we started thinking many years ago in the company, I mean, okay, leadership is something is important, but are leaders born or formed? That's forever question. And we said, okay, let's take the side of that we can form leaders, because people that say that they are born leaders say that only 2% of the population are on that side. So let's believe that we can form leaders, because that will give us more opportunities to find those guys within our company. Second thing we said, who is a leader in our company? And we said, anybody who has an objective, a target, and for him or her to get there, he needs a team, he's in the leadership position, okay? If tomorrow he's in the spreadsheet and he's all by himself or herself, he's not in a leadership position. But he steps back into a position where I need my team to get somewhere, he needs to play that role of leader. And now that gets us to the definition of leadership. Leadership is something very simple to define, very hard to live. What's the definition? 3 things. It's about delivering results on a sustainable basis through the team. So the whole thing about the people aspect, you can't do it by yourself by the very definition of leadership. Doing it the right way. So how we do it, how you do it, that matters as much as what you do it. And I'm here.
Also, he says that the leader should have attention to details. The leader should not be someone who just comes and gives gyan. Leader should be someone who understands the business.
Company. Also, leaders have to be some people that are people person. They need to believe, they need to like to be surrounded by people. They need to like to inspire people, to get people to believe that they can perform better than they think they can. That they together can get to places that they never thought they could. That's inspiration, that's coaching, that's making people believe, giving them reasons to believe. It's always that thing of upping the bar. A leader is also somebody who has to know enough details about the operation to ask relevant questions and to set targets that make sense. Because some people believe that as you grow in the company, you have to become more strategic. That operation is something that for the lower guys, and you have to be strategic. In our view, that misses the point. A leader has to be a mix. Of course, I mean, it's just like in a ship. In a big ship, if everybody is in the engine room and there's nobody looking toward the ship's going, that's not ideal. If everybody's at the bridge and nobody looking at the engine, that also doesn't work. So of course there are different roles and different mixes between details of operations and strategic side of the business. But a leader that's 100% strategy will not be able, as time goes by, because it's getting distant from the business, to ask good questions and set relevant targets. So in our company, we value people that can have both. And when people come to meetings with me, they know I can dive into any details because I'm not afraid of it, because I travel. I try to get as much detail as I need to for those 2 things. So